What if everything you thought and believed about successful buying, selling, and financing your home was wrong? Welcome to Homewise with Miget. This is where you can count on straightforward, objective advice on the right way to make the most out of every dollar you put into your home. Whether it's buying, selling, or financing, even maintaining and growing its value along the way. Coming to you from the News Talk STL studios at Union Station in St. Louis.
Good morning. You're listening to Homewise Radio. I'm Stal Ponticus, and I'm joined by the creator and host of the show, Miget. Michael, great to see you, buddy.
I'm good, Stal. How are you?
Doing fine, thanks.
I don't know. I got a beef today.
Yeah. Okay.
So
you're on a roll.
Yeah.
Okay.
Prepared.
All right. I'm ready. I'm ready for the
all right. So
attack. Let's do it.
All right. So today, just real simple. It's credit marketing. Okay.
Okay.
So things like pre-approved credit offers, something you'll trigger leads. I'll explain what those are. We're going to talk about what it is, how it works, how they work, and perhaps most importantly of all, how to make it stop if you don't want them anymore. Okay. So if you can't tell, I mean, there's probably, outside of PMI, private mortgage insurance, there's probably no more heated or inflammatory subject in the world or realm of what I do than this today. So if you don't know what it is I'm talking about, so why don't we do this? All right. So think about this, right? So when you go down every day, mailman comes, drops mail off at your house. You go to your mailbox, you open it up, and it's filled with what? Mail, right? So vast majority of it is likely to be junk mail. All right. And if you take them out and you sort them the way that I do, you'll see that probably at least half of them are from credit card companies that you don't have accounts with. And the rest of them are from credit card companies that you do have accounts with. So it's amazing, and I could name the names, but I mean, I've got them they're emblazoned in my brain because it seems like every day, same company, same envelope, same company, different envelope. Different company, same envelope. They have the same direct mail house doing their mail. Similar offers and everything. The Capital Ones, the Chases, the Wells Fargos, the Banks of America, U.S. Bank, depending on who your credit accounts are with, depending on what your credit profile looks like, will determine on who you get these from. And then there's always a bunch or a smaller stack that are the companies that you've never heard of before. Like Long Island Credit, I'm sure there is one. I made that up, but, it's very, very pervasive out there. And if you know what I'm talking about, if you understand how all this works, then you kind of know why it just ticks me off. I mean, it ticks a lot of people off. Even not the some people, they don't care about the mail. Some people do care about the mail. I mean, people get upset about junk mail just in general, much less this particular kind of junk mail. But see, it doesn't stop just with the mailbox. All right. See, I don't mind the mailbox, but it goes beyond the mailbox because they will also fill up your voicemail box with the unwanted calls. Right. And so depending on what it is they're selling, right? So there's one today that I'm thinking of. I was just having a conversation with a friend about this, and he's asking me why do I get what's going on? I'm scared, I'm worried that they have something on me or on my house or what. They keep calling me, asking me if I want to sell my house. Well, I don't want to sell my house. I haven't been on Zillow. I haven't talked to a real estate agent. I haven't set foot in a real estate agent's office. I haven't done anything to make anyone, I don't think I've done anything to make someone think that I would want to sell my house. What do they know that I don't? Mike, they probably don't know. His name is Mike too. I'm not talking to myself here. His situation, there is no reason why he would sell his house. So he's concerned. And said, well, Mike, they probably don't know anything at all because generally, let me guess, he or she, it's usually a she, because statistically they know that a caller is more likely to listen to a female voice than a male voice. They probably spoke broken English at best, right? Oh yeah, they sound, and then like pick your foreign offshore country of choice that has these types of call centers, right? So today with technology, these people can be sitting anywhere in the world, be connected via the internet to a phone system of a company, of a marketing company, of a mail, like however they're doing this, and they can make that call very inexpensively. So they don't have to be very, very, very particular about it. Okay. But that's not the kind of call. I mean, that's the kind of call we're talking about, the same aggravation that comes along with that, but it's not the people that are buying your house. They aren't the ones that have, they're not making a pre-approved offer to you, but interdispersed through all those calls, there will be the ones that are supposed to be making an offer to you, and we'll talk about what that is and why I said that way here in just a minute. But when you apply for credit, right? So let's say you're getting ready to buy a house, right? Because everybody knows somebody is getting ready to buy a house, whether you know it or not. Statistically, if you make application or you call somebody, have somebody pull your credit report, okay, that's going to trigger. Right, hence the word why we call them trigger leads. It's going to trigger an onslaught of marketing to you for reasons that we'll talk about here in a minute. But it doesn't matter buying a house, buying a car, maybe even inquiring about a credit card. Right, if they do a hard credit pull, something that shows up in that inquiry thing, it's one of the things that these companies can buy from bureaus for marketing purpose, right? So, oh man, I just opened up a bunch of cans there. So I promise you, I will get to it all. But that's the one that really gets me, is the one where they're calling, they want to buy your house. So guess what? That's also a texting campaign, because I get the texts all the time too.
Indeed, so do we.
And I have a lot of business numbers. So the business numbers, when they're plugged into business phone systems, generally will support voice, faxing, and texting on that same line, even though it's not a line that I would normally do texting on. So, and I can just tell they're blasting all these lines, because there's lines that I will get texts on that of numbers that I've never published before, right? So they're just dialing through, 001, 002, 003, they're doing that kind of stuff. And because it's done offshore, and because they have probably a direct pipe into the telephony backbone of the internet pieces, they can do that extremely inexpensively. And so, it's illegal. but when you're, just try to track them down, you'll never track them down, right? They're programmed to hang up the second that you do anything that is not a buying signal. For example, if they call you, you can ask to be taken off the list. Bang, they hang up on you. Okay, well, now I'm even more pissed off, because they hung, and you're sitting there fuming. They're off talking to you. Like, you might not even have been talking to a real person, right? Today with technology, text to voice. So we're familiar with the Chat GPT thing. GPT-4 supports multimodal. You're not quite seeing it yet in the consumer-facing texting thing, but for the people that have APIs into it, they're building platforms that are built on top of that, to where you can type something out and you can feed it into a computer, and a computer will say it back to you. Virtually indistinguishable from a human voice. Well, it's built using human voices. You can use it. You could do one using your own voice, right? Statistically, 98 people out of 100 will be fooled by it, and just fooled because it's not what it sounds like. I was watching I watched Fox Business during the day on in the background, and there was a story on about a lady who had gotten a ransom call, and I wasn't paying enough attention to know who the lady was. Why would somebody be trying to ransom her for money, but supposedly they wanted money. They had her kid. She had X number of minutes to ship X number of Bitcoin or whatever to something, or they were gonna. Well, I wasn't paying that close of attention to it.
I remember that story, and the critical part was the phone call was made with the fake voice of her daughter.
Correct.
And that's what totally terrified her. And on a similar note, I'll say that a few days ago, you may have seen this too, Michael. I saw a clip of Joe Rogan and a portion of his show, and it was all fake. The background was accurate. His visage and everything about him was totally right on, and the voice was perfect.
Yep.
And he came on and said, "Hi, this is Joe Rogan." Yep. Did a little intro for the show, and then said, "No, this isn't really me. This is an AI version of the show." Supposedly, that was scary.
Yep. Supposedly they can do that with as little as 3 seconds of voice data.
Wow.
So
wow.
You know, like say your name. Where are you from? Okay, we got it. Next. You know, like, and then they can produce it's an algorithm. It's a computer formula that you feed text in, right? So you can type out what the script is supposed to be, feed it into the system, turn on the dialer, and, you know, through the magic of technology and all these different systems integrated with each other, can produce marketing calls at scale to where if somebody answers on the other, oh, we got a live one. Okay, say that, you know, but there's no like human being that actually, so maybe that's what it could be. I usually don't stay on the phone with them long. I don't have enough interest in it to know, to verify. I'm just saying something out loud, but even that isn't most of it. But when you make the application at place or have your credit hard pulled, it triggers an onslaught of mail, phone calls, unwanted texts. Well, it's all unwanted most likely, and emails. Emails are in there too, though they might be the least inflammatory of them because who doesn't get junk email in their email box because that's viewed as free to send also. So anyway,
and hopefully they go in your spam folder and you can delete them from there.
Yeah. So anyway, what the heck is going on with this? Like, okay, so I said a few things in there, about making an offer based on your credit report, things like that. Have they bought my data? What do they have? Is this legal? Like a bunch of, I get these questions all the time because part of my intake process, actually at the part where we do the credit report, I warn my prospects and clients and that when because I have to do a real credit pull here, when I do that, it's going to trigger this thing. Okay. I apologize up front. I know it's going to happen. There's nothing I can do about it at this point. Well, but I am going to share something that you can do about it ahead of time. But when we're at the point of sale and it's done like that, there's really, there's not a lot you can do because there's a lag time between what I'll share with you as the way to opt out. But we will get to that later also. What they're doing, okay, so yeah, they have bought some of your personal data, which you would consider personal data. I mean, today people fret about putting their email address into a website, right? Oh, I don't want to get all those unwanted unwanted emails. If I shared with you everything about, actually, I'm going to share a lot of it here, so buckle up. It'll make you sick to your stomach, right? So, and yeah, it is legal. So what is this? First off, it's a firm offer of credit. What does that mean? It's an offer made based on information contained in your credit report. Okay, so I said that already. They have information from your credit report. How did they get it? They bought it. Where did they buy it from? They bought it from the credit report. Why did they buy it? Because they want to market to you the offsetting, like sort of for them, in order to do that, they have to make what's called a firm offer of credit. That offer of credit, the lender has to honor if you respond and apply for the offer that they sent to you, right? So it goes something like, hey, we got this pre-approved balance transfer for you, 0% for 18 months, and all you got to do is call this 800 number or go online and punch this code in or dial this number and punch this, something to identify yourself. it ties you to the call or to your response mechanism, to the letter that ties you back to your information in their database, because what they have actually done is they have used criteria that they've purchased from the credit bureau, based this offer on that. They need to tie this call back to that offer, because remember, if you say, yeah, I want it, they have to give it to you. Presumably you qualify. Why? Because they bought. See, that's sort of the way this all works together, because they already know what the credit profile looks like. It's legal under, there's 2 laws, okay? So FCRA, Fair Credit Reporting Act, and FACTA, the Fair and Accurate Credit Transactions Act. Those are 2 laws that govern, we'll just say govern credit reports, okay? Credit reports, who can access them, what's in them, all that kind of stuff. All right, so in order to, under these 2 laws, these are the same laws that I have to go by in order to pull credit reports when I do mortgage loans. All right, so there's a thing called permissible purpose. All right, permissible purpose is what you need in order to access the credit report, access the data that the credit bureaus have on you that's put together to form what's in your credit report, up to and including your credit score. All right. So in order for you to get that data, the person that's getting that data needs to have a purpose, right? There's got to be a reason for it. Reason can't be, well, I wanted to know. Well, that's not good enough, right? There are specific reasons written into the law. The vast majority, most common, is application for credit, right? So if you come to me, you want to buy a house, you want to get pre-approved, you're making an application with me, I pull your credit report to see if you qualify. When I go to the credit bureau to become a subscriber, pay and join and all that kind of stuff, to be able to access that, sign all the agreements and all the legal stuff. My purpose that I'm stating up front, it's for people applying for credit. All right. Insurance and employers might also do this. So insurance companies will look at credit reports, credit scores to see what, in insurance underwriting. Employers will sometimes do it to decide if they're going to hire somebody, right? It could be built into their HR profiles. And then there's this third category here called extend a firm offer of credit, or to be used for marketing purposes. And that's where the idea of the firm offer comes from. So if you're going to access the data for that purpose, there are certain rules and guidelines that you have to go by, which I'm going to jump into here in just a minute so you know what the heck is going on, the rest of the story. But why don't we go to break? Yes. And we will jump into that when we come back.
You're listening to Homewise Radio with Michael Miget. I'm Stal Ponticus. We will take a quick break and come back in a moment. Welcome back to Homewise Radio. I'm Stal Ponticus with the host and creator of the show, Michael Miget. Michael, continue this conversation, which is fascinating.
I figured it would.
You're really getting into it here.
I'm like sweating over here because I'm just, and I'm holding back too. So like, you keep there's an FCC button around here somewhere. I don't see it. It might be hidden, but keep your finger on it.
I will.
Because you never know. All right. I know I kind of, anyway. All right. So we talked about that this is legal. All right. It's written into the law. Why your mailbox, why your voicemail box, your snail mailbox, your email box, your text mailbox might be filled up with phone calls, letters, texts, emails about all these people wanting to lend you money just because you had a credit profile that they met. And so there's a certain level of that goes on. But if you go out and apply for real credit, like you're going to buy a house, you're going to buy a car, something where they have to do a real credit report, the barrage onslaught of all of that it takes on new meaning, right? It will make you hate stuff. So I'm not trying to scare you away from doing that. What I'm trying to do is prepare you, because what happens is if whoever you're working with does not prepare you for it, and so you don't know what it is and don't understand it, One, you might mistake one of or some of those calls for the person that you applied with, because that's how they do the marketing, right? So this is marketing. It's built to elicit a response. So if somebody has their credit report pulled, and so I can access, like I don't know who did it, but I know what category it was for. Like, what was it, mortgage credit or auto credit or credit card credit? So if I go out and look at mortgage, people who had their credit report pulled for a mortgage, wow, good possibility they might be looking to borrow money. Might be a good person to market to, right? Because they're in market. Okay. Small percentage of the people in the population at any given time might be looking to buy, sell, refinance their house and their big transactions. So it makes sense for them to do that. We're going to talk about that, the metrics of that a little bit here, just to kind of put things in perspective for you. But it begs the question, what did they actually buy, right? So you said they have based on information in my credit report. Well, do they actually have my credit report? Okay, well, the answer is no. They don't actually have the credit report the way that I might get your credit report if you called me to get pre-approved for a loan. But effectively, we can impute or discern what information that's pertinent to the reason why we're marketing to you, know what's in the report in that way. So, for example, what can they buy, right? Credit scores. How much you owe on a thing. Like, do you have a mortgage trade line? How much do you owe? How old is that mortgage trade line? Was it a 15-year or a 30-year? How many credit cards do you have? Do you have a car loan? How much? What do all of your bills add up to? You know what I mean? Like, all of this data is contained or can be calculated based on information contained in that credit report. It's the criteria that they give to the credit bureau to say, I want people that meet this criteria because I'm going to make them a firm offer of credit in exchange for the right or the privilege to access that data. All right. So they don't actually give you the data or the credit report, but they say, okay, here's the list of names or people, or we'll just refer to it as a list of people that meet your criteria. So if I go to credit bureau and say, hey, give me a list of people that live in this certain area that have a 740 or higher credit score, right? And they give me back a list. I don't know if you're 740 or 750 or 760, but I know you were 740 or more. I know you're not a 640, right? This is live data that we're getting. So it's not quite as bad as it sounds. By the way, it's been going on since the beginning of time, whether you realize it or not. It's not new. It's not nothing to do with technology. Technology has made it more pervasive and has made it easier for companies to get into the game of doing this. But it's been around since the beginning of time. I mean, ever since I've been in the business, it just used to be much more difficult to get qualified or approved by the credit bureaus to pass their stringent guidelines to be able to have the privilege of accessing this data. And I say it that way to say that it's not something that's taken lightly. Like, you can't, if you're listening, it's like you couldn't just go in and go to a bureau and say, hey, I want to buy, you can't do that. You have to be a company. You have to make an application to apply for that. What's your purpose? Okay. What is your criteria? Who do you lend? They do a full underwriting of you, like me. Whenever I get approved to pull credit reports, I have to go through a qualification process. So they know who I am, what's happening. They have a list of all the ones I pulled. Every single credit pull has a code attached to it that identifies me or my company or whatever. By the way, that's the same code or criteria that they use, or the fact that gets attached on there, they track those inquiries. So that's something that you could buy. Okay.
Because you have regulations to follow.
Right. So what are they going to do with it? All right. So they've got this information. What are they going to do with it? Well, they're doing with it, they're supposed to market to you. In fact, if they buy the data, they're actually required to market to you. Because if they bought the data and they didn't make the firm offer, so it's almost like they owe you a firm offer now, right? So you created your You got approved with the bureau. You created your criteria. You sent it off. They sent you back a list of names on the premise that you're going to make a firm offer of credit to them. You have to make that firm offer. You're required to. Now, as far as I know, I've never had anybody show up on my door and ask me if I did or didn't or whatever. But based on the document, like the documents and the agreements that you sign, they have to make that offer. So it's not just supposed to market to you; they're required to market to you. As strange as that might sound, so they have to make an offer of credit. Right. So they're going to mail you a letter or make a phone call or send an email or something. In that email or phone call or letter, there are certain criteria that the piece has to meet. Right. There's certain disclaimers that have to be done. It has to communicate certain information. I won't get into the deep weeds on all of that, but they have to inform you of your right to opt out. So that's first and foremost. It's the front. The big notice, the main notice, you have the right to opt out of pre-screening offers of credit. Then they have to tell you that a firm offer of credit is being made. Okay, that's not the exact language, but effectively that's what it is. They have to exactly spell out what that offer is, what you need to do in order to exercise your right to take them up on their offer. And then, you have to spell it out in specifics, including an expiration or a deadline, right? So it can't just be open-ended because you mailed me the letter, I call you next year. Well, that's no good because my criteria might be, their criteria might be different next year. My criteria might look different next year. Mm-hmm. So there has to be, and they're guaranteeing within a window that, and it's usually like 15 days, 30 days. Best practices is about 30 days. You'll see some companies go 60 days just because they're being lazy and they don't want to rebuy the list again, which bad reason to be lazy, but because you're playing with fire here if you are doing it.
But they're under obligation to make the offer.
They are. They're right. They're under obligation to make it and honor it if you respond and say that you want it.
Okay.
Now there is a caveat to that, of course, because there always is. That there is more to a credit qualification than just what your credit numbers are. Okay. So, for example, you could say, well, you met my credit requirements, but we didn't extend you credit. Why? Well, because there are additional qualifications and requirements that we have. Well, what are those? Well, you have to have a job. Okay. Credit Bureau doesn't contain the data on whether you are employed, how much money you make, and all that kind of stuff. So theoretically, I can't go to the Bureau and say, hey, give me a list of 740 credit scores and people that are currently working, salaried, have a job, and would qualify for this in that way. I only get the credit data. I mail you a letter. You call me back, say, hey, I want that. Like, okay, so now you make application. We confirm that you still meet the criteria that was used to select you for the offer in the first place and any additional criteria that I apply uniformly across all of my decisions, right? So an example of that would be the income that I had said, all right? So, yeah, you met the credit requirements, but you're not working right now. Hey, that's why you called, right? I could really use that credit right now. Well, you qualify for it that way as far as we knew, but you didn't meet the rest of our requirements, so you got denied. Okay. So, and companies, we'll get into the issue or the problem that I have with that here. But let's jump on to another thing here, which is, because this is what I get a lot is, should I be worried? What's going on? What happened? Something I'm uncomfortable with this. What happened? Is this something to be concerned about? It's a great question. And it might actually be the most important question next to the, how do I opt out of it if I don't want to do it? So we're going to get to that here in a minute. But should you be worried about it? Probably not, because like I said, this is not new. It's been going on since the beginning of the time. The vast majority of offers that are made by large, reputable, and I would even and they say in air quotes, ethical companies, the big banks, the national banks, national mortgage lenders, people that, that you recognize. Okay. So it's normal. It happens every day. It's been around forever. It's above board. It's actually written into the laws, all the guidelines, what it is, and all of that, right? So it's legitimate. So in that sense, you don't need to be worried. But there is the possibility that the information could be used in a method not prescribed by law, right? So, yeah, we made a firm offer of credit to you, and then we also, because we had you can't ungive the data, right? So it's not a secret. When you give somebody's name, address, contact information, to make the offer, right? So if you're going to email it to them, they send you've purchased the email address also. Why? Because I need that in order to deliver it. Delivery is upon you. It's upon you. So you're managing yourself. They're not managing this process also. They're just managing the transmission and the front end of that. You're on your word for the rest of it, right? So if the company is above board and they're doing this the right way, but that's not a guarantee, right? So sometimes there are these companies that you've never heard of, and they might not be local in your local community here, right? Not the community bank down the street. It might be a bank you've never heard of from whatever state, like Washington, like far away, right? As far away from us as you can get. Maybe that might be an issue. It just depends on what they're doing what they're doing with the data. Are they using it in an ethical way? All right. That could be cause for concern. But again, let me just put the brakes on a few things that might be floating around in your mind there. If somebody has your credit score, yeah, they know that you have a general credit profile. They would have your name, they would have your address. Now, they don't need to go to the credit bureau to get your address, because your address, if you own a house, it's public record. You can go down to the recorder of deeds office. I can find all kinds of information on you down there. It's public record. It's free. I don't even have to call you. Now anybody could go do that. All right. But the stuff like Social Security numbers, no, they don't have your Social Security number. All right. If they're going to get that, they're going to get that from you. You're going to have to give it to them, because they're going to have to do a real credit pull, or they're going to do another credit pull or something like that. Or if they aren't, then they don't need it and you don't have to worry about it. But what I'm saying is that when they buy the data, part of that data that they're buying is not, it's not a birthday. It's not a Social Security number. It's not a driver's license number or other things that that start to border into really personal data, like somebody might use to verify your identity with. But speaking of that, on a totally separate subject, identity theft, right? This is one of the entry points for that. How do people get the information to do identity theft? Well, it's not difficult to pull a credit report. And if you're dealing with unethical people, it could possibly be that. It doesn't happen often. It doesn't happen all the time. It's not the only way that they get that, but it is sort of a side tangent there. Mostly people, they just get annoyed with it, right? It's just annoying. I describe the annoyance with those calls and those texts about people wanting to buy my house, which is not credit marketing, but it's the most inflammatory thing that I could think of to give you the parallel with what people express to me that they're ticked off about when it comes to this subject of credit marketing. Because they ask me why do I get all these things? I don't want these. How do they know they can, what if, it's just this barrage of questions. I get it. Okay. People just get annoyed with it. Layer on top of that they have some information on you, some credit report, some credit information. And, it just starts to stir this pot, and then start calling them. Call them on their cell phone. Call them on their cell phone at work. Call them real early in the morning. Call them at 6 a.m, right? Because they're well, who knows where they are. They didn't do their math right to know what time zone the person is that they're calling it, you know, so they woke you up, or maybe they called you really late at night. I mean, throw the law, like telemarketing rules out the door. They're not paying attention to rules that are less, you know, important than that, are more important than that. Like, they're not going to, you know, they're not even worry about what time it is. But people just get mad, right? So you've applied for a mortgage. You've got the stress of, am I going to get approved? Maybe I'm not. What am I going to get offered? Am I with the right guy? I don't know what house. I can't find a house. Houses cost a lot. I don't know I don't know what payment, like all that. And then all of a sudden you just get the confusion of, now there's all these companies calling me and they sound like you. Like, well, they're very well practiced. I mean, they don't sound like me in my voice. Well, I guess they could sound like me in my voice if they wanted to make an AI clone of me. But I'm barring that. They reference the fact that I just made an application with somebody, and they worded it, you know, like, I mean, just the things I've seen, I would just, let's not show up in the same room together. Like, whoever made this, I sort of like, in a way, I'm in awe, because it's like, it's really good, but man, it's really pushing it's in the dark gray area if it's not illegal, or if it's not, it's certainly unethical and immoral. So
it's good, but scary.
Yeah. So, you know, that's what people, they just get annoyed with that. So, why don't we, the big payoff on all this is really what I'm going to tell you next, which is, if you don't like this, if you feel like me, if it's something that you would like to stop, you can stop it, like, for real.
Good.
Not like fake stop, but I mean, like, really stop it. We're going to go to break. When we come back, I'll share with you exactly how to do that, and we'll wrap this up.
You're listening to Homewise Radio. That's Michael Miget. I'm Stal Ponticus. Glad that you're along, and we will be back right after this quick break. Welcome back to Homewise Radio. I'm Stal Ponticus, and Michael Miget, the creator and host of the show, is here with me. And we are at a critical spot here, Michael, so take it away, my friend.
Still fired up over here. Still. If you're just joining us, we are talking about credit marketing and something called trigger leads. It's an industry slang term, but it's when you apply for credit somewhere and then all of a sudden you start getting all these calls and mail and texts and emails from people that you don't know related to that application, you know, put in where they pulled credit, and it's confusing, and it stresses people out because they don't know what to make of it. Like, should they pay attention to it? Is it legit? Has somebody stolen my information? This is the one. And the reason why, if you really want to know why it does that, is that people's first thought, and see, I tell them, and this still happens, is their first thought is unconscious or thought out, like, and comes out of their mouth because they call me, is like, did I sell their information? Did I sell them out? And the answer is no. Okay. There's only one thing to do about it. We're going to talk about that here in a second. But I did not sell your information, or the person who you made application with, they did not sell your information. There's nothing that they can do in and of themselves to stop it. Right. So there's no oh, I went to the cheap credit bureau and I should have went to the expensive one. Right. So the cheap one has to sell your information in order to make ends meet. And that's why they're cheaper, because you become the product instead of like paying full boat. No, that's not it.
Doesn't make any difference.
Nope. All bureaus sell it because it's done at statutory level. The three bureaus, and now, you know, arguably there's more than that. There's a fourth one that we're actually getting scores from, and then there's variations on those for different purposes. But I still refer to the big three, you know, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. You know, they are the ones that's where the data is coming from, whether it was purchased directly or whether it was purchased through a broker who deals with the bureau directly, but that's the source of it. All right. So, but people don't care about that. All they know is I tried to buy a house. I got referred to you. I talked to you, and I liked you. You're nice. Yeah, like you're informative and that and whatever. But then, like, we got off the phone, and the next day, like, I got woke up in the morning. I didn't know. I thought it was you, but it was another. He sounded. I'm like, I had to just hang up because he called me, and he's like, mad, right? I get it. It's not the first time I've heard this. Not the first time. Not the last time I'm going to hear it either. Mm-hmm. So I've worked it into the process, which is part of the reason why we're talking about it here today, is because I want to just let people know what it is and why it's happening, and that no one has stolen your information; they've just bought it, which you didn't have to authorize for them to buy it. But what you can do is you can unauthorize them to sell it. Right? It's called an opt-out. Right? So if you really don't want to get these solicitations, if they make you mad, if you don't want them, if you don't need them, if you're trying to, I don't know if saving the trees is a thing anymore. Like now we're trying to save the planet, which probably include the trees, but it's like the whole thing together. If you believe in that kind of stuff, if you really don't want them anymore, there's a way to opt out of them. Okay. But just let me throw this in there before you do it. Think about it. All right. If they're being done responsibly and ethically, then there can be a benefit to it. All right. So you might wonder, like, why is it written into law in the first place? Right. Because I can't imagine anybody like actually wants this. Well, from a consumer perspective, it's marketers that want it, it's the credit bureaus that want to sell it to make money, because they don't make a lot of money when we pull like credit reports for mortgages and that. I mean, yeah, they're expensive, but the maintenance and the processes and all that is enormous, right? This ability to sell this as an additional thing is a big profit center for them. So, I'm not out to say the credit bureaus, but they do perform a purpose. But there is a benefit to it, right? And some people might want the solicitation, like it might come at a handy time, and it's nice because somebody has like shown it to me here. It's made it convenient, right? Now you could go to a credit website where that lists different credit offers, or you could go directly to your bank, or you could make a list of banks and call them and all that. But you might not have the full list. You might not know all of the offers. And if a bank wanted to come out and make a particularly strong offer, they might not tell you about it, right? Because if they put that out there into the interweb and the internet, and like people, they go looking for that kind of stuff. Like people generally don't go looking for credit early in the process, right? They go late, right? So if they're having financial trouble and that, like, oh, I need some money, I need to pay off these bills or whatever. Well, why do you need to do that? Oh, I'm falling behind here, and here. Well, you should have called me before or not me, but I mean like the loan person that you're talking to, or whoever you get on the phone or on the other end of the chat whenever you respond to those things. Well, you should have came to me early rather than late. We don't, people, it's the old saying, like people don't lend money when you need it. They lend it when you don't need it, right? It's raining, I need an umbrella. Oh, I got no umbrella for you. But on a sunny day, there's all kinds laying around, it's like it has to do with that need. So don't show up. Don't show up late. All right. But that's the intent of the law, is to make it there for a convenience or a benefit to the consumer. What happens though is that companies, and it's even, you could have any particular company do this in a very above board and ethical way, but 20 companies bought the same piece of data today because you're a really good prospect. You're a really good prospect, right? And so you got 20 banks wanting to lend you money, so that's 20 letters. Well, one letter would have been okay, two may be okay. 20, no good. And based on the cyclical nature of the way that the bigger organizations will buy this, they buy it on a tape, or it's like a subscription. So the beginning of every month. So the beginning of the month, the scores roll over at the bureau. They get a new snapshot. Who meets it? Boom, mail goes. It's already like cranked out, ready to go. Boom. So you might get 20 offers like on the same day, And that is what ticks people off. And then in the case where you've made application, now you're getting the trigger leads in, or the calls, or the solicitations that are triggered based on that. Those all come in a barrage like within the next 24 to 48 hours. And then after 3 or 4 days, they kind of stop, because just statistically that like the response rate just drops off to like almost nothing. I mean,
Sure.
It starts off at almost nothing, you know, because that's how marketing works. It's a numbers game, right? You're spreadsheet crunching. The companies that do these things are call centers. They got hundreds of people. They're on dial, you know, I mean, if they even use real people. So we kind of already talked about that. So how the heck, so let's say that you do one out after all that. Okay. Even if you do opt out, it's not permanent. You could always change your mind. So how do you do that? All right, real easy. Go to optoutprescreen.com. So it's opt, O-P-T, out, O-U-T, pre, P-R-E, screen, S-C-R-E-E-N.com, optoutprescreen.com. Okay. Go there, and there's a button to click that says, hey, I want to opt out. You put your information in, and they have a direct pipe to all 3. It's actually 4 on that site that will get you opted out. All right. That opt out lasts 5 years. Okay. After 5 years, it will expire. It'll be lifted. And then you would be able to be marketed to again. You'd have to go back and renew it, okay? Or when you do that, when you make that initial opt-out and you're in that 5-year period, there is a way to then do an additional step where you mail in your request, right? So when you go online, you're making it what's called an electronic request. That has the 5-year thing with it. If you want to make that permanent to where you don't have to renew it every 5 years, then there's something that you print out, sign, and mail in. And that's supposed to take a couple of months to do, but you're currently still like you have 5 years to do 5 years to do it. So before it would expire. Okay. And that takes like 5 to 7 business days or something like that. I mean, I've never actually timed them on it, but that will work. That will get you opted out. That will, after the course of a month or so, see, it takes about a week for them to record the data, like in their database, but that isn't going to stop people who had already bought the data and they just haven't gotten their mail out yet, right? So you buy the data, it might be 2 weeks before you can get the letter out or get the calls made or before they get into your cycle. Well, you opted out yesterday. A week went by. Okay, it's live. No more nothing. And then the letters are still showing up. Well, what the heck? What's going on, right? Well, there's just a lag time there. So give it 30 days, right? So that's why I say whenever you call in and we're going to do a credit report because we're going to get you pre-approved for a mortgage, a real hard pre-approval. You need a hard pull credit so we can verify everything, get your scores, get your history, get all that. That you're going to, why don't I just tell you to opt out there before I do that pull? Well, because you'd have to effectively wait up to 30 days to do that. Well, you might be closing in 30 days. I'm sure your realtor doesn't want to wait 30 days to see if you're pre-approved. Now, some companies will do a soft pull preliminarily and base their approval on that. Think about that. So you've pulled a soft pull credit report. So just for explanation, a soft pull versus a hard pull. A soft pull doesn't result in a hard inquiry. That isn't tracked by the bureaus in the same way that does not trigger the onslaught of calls. That's why companies will do it. I have the ability to do them. I'll do preliminarily if I'm pre-qualifying somebody, but if I'm pre-approving somebody, like I need something to put out there I can stand behind to my realtor partners, to sellers, to listing agents that are going to consider offers that my clients are going to make on their homes, they want a real pre-approval letter. Well, a soft credit report can't underwrite on that. I can't run automated underwriting on that. So if we are in the period and you're out looking for housing, we need to make an offer and that 30 days hasn't come yet and we don't have a real letter, regardless of what the piece of paper I gave you says, or if somebody, I know companies do it out there because I've seen it before. I see them advertise it, right? They don't know for sure because even though the soft pull is supposed to have the same information in it, they're waiting 30 days to get that real credit report. Something can happen during that 30 days. Whereas if you come in on day one and we pull that credit report has a lifespan to it. So like just this past week, we got a contract in on is somebody that I had pre-approved 6 weeks before. And in loan land, and when you're looking at housing, that 6 weeks can feel like an eternity. And like, let's say, do we need to redo credit? Like, no, we got plenty of time because they will last for at least 4 months. We're going to close in a month. I pulled it 6 weeks ago. So we're, so we're good on that. If I had done and was relying on a soft pull up front, it's like, okay, well, now we're going to really like get serious and do the approval. Well, we pull that credit report and now I get to find out what score I can base an underwriting on. Oh, it wasn't 740, it's 739. Doesn't sound like much, but it's a bucket below. Well, your rate just went up. If you're paying mortgage insurance, your mortgage insurance just went up, and maybe you went from a 700 to 699. Now you might be looking at a qualification issue. If you were in the riskier realm of the 3 C's that we talked about, debt ratio, credit, and collateral, if you were putting down just a little bit of money and your debt ratios were above what Fannie and Freddie would consider, high or lower, or whatever. And now the credit was in a good category. It's still in a good category. There's nothing wrong with 699, but it throws it into a different category that can change a qualification. I've seen approvals disappear because of a single point on a credit report before. It's insane. It's just insane. So as a loan officer, as a lender, I want to get my stuff in. I want to get it done. I want to get it on time. I want solid concrete ground that we can stand on so that when my borrowers are out there, my buyers, or we're putting together a package we're representing to the listing agents to sell. I just had a long conversation with a seller the other day that was, this is what they were concerned with. I was like, I've done a full underwriting on it. We're good. Well, I've heard, I know it ain't worth the paper that's written on. I know it isn't worth the paper that's written on. That's why we're on the phone. I'm giving you my word. So look, if I'm lying through my teeth, like, where to find me, right? I'm local, right? I can't hide. So, and that's really the issue is moreover communication on things like this. They just want to know that they can call, they can talk to somebody that's not going to get ghosted, because that's what happens. If the deal goes south, can't get the loan out, he knows it's going south a week before closing. Be nice for everybody to know a week before closing, but they don't find out until the day of closing, and closing papers aren't there. And I don't know how anybody actually gets into that situation without having a communication, but I know it happens because I have it. I hear it. I hear it in these conversations. So you just want to make sure that you're doing all this right. And part of that is getting a hard credit report. So you're going to have to deal with this at some level if you're not already opted out, but you could go opt out today.
Okay.
Before, right? So optoutprescreen.com. There's also a phone number, 1-888 5 opt out. It's 888-567-8688. And you'll also want to do the donotcall.gov, the do not call list. Go to do not call, easy to spell, .gov, and sign up for that also. That will help stop some unwanted telemarketing calls. Not all of them. There's certain categories plus the criminals.
Good.
That are still calling you.
So if folks want to get in touch with you?
Yep. I'm real easy. Same place I've always been, homewiseradio.com. Mortgage websites, GoShelter.com, and you can call and text me direct, 314-275-0314. I'm right here, local in St. Louis.
Very good. Thanks for all the great information. You've been listening to Homewise Radio with Michael Miget. I'm Stal Ponticas. Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of the show. We'll do it again next weekend, and we hope that you'll join us. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Loans and loan information provided by Shelter Mortgage, Inc. Visit us at GoShelter.com and MLS number 192609. A Missouri residential mortgage licensee and equal housing lender. Call 888-497-2558 for additional cost information. Other restrictions may apply.